Hello, GIS students. So this little tutorial I'm going to provide, hopefully you can see my screen here where I have open in the upper left an ArcGIS Pro project blank. On the upper right, I have an ArcGIS or ArcMap project blank. And down below here, I have a QGIS project, also currently nothing added there. So basically, what I want to show you all in this is how to get data into all of these software packages and how to display it and then make a map that you can export and compare these different types of software along the way. So in Lab 1B of your class, I basically ask you to go to Utah Geospatial Resource Center, UGRC, and get some data that you can then open up in these softwares. And I ask you to do this for two of them and export similar maps. They won't be perfectly similar because in some, like you get a default base map. In others, you may not have access to that same base map. You can, of course, download your own base maps from the UGRC, including air photos, digital elevation models, etc. But of course, ArcGIS, Esri products provide their own as well. So let's get some data. So if we keep scrolling down, we'll see many data categories. And I like elevation and terrain data. Um, so let's use that. You can use anything you want. If you are using some vector data and you want a base map like elevation or terrain, or maybe a municipality base map or the state of Utah, get those as well. So in many of these downloads, you're going to be looking to download raster and vector data that is going to say come from uh, some sort of zip file. And the reason for that is um, if you want to get like faults and folds of Utah, you are going to have to download it as a shapefile. Uh, Shapefiles are kind of an older form of vector data for GIS softwares developed by Esri, but they can work in all three of these software programs. Or you'd get a geodatabase file. And the geodatabases are more kind of modern software, modern data sets for GIS software that allow you to store more topology and rules. Uh, but they're not going to work so nicely in QGIS. So if you're wanting to use QGIS, stick to shapefiles. Regardless, under all of these downloads, shapefiles or geodatabases, there's actually multiple files. So there's a file that tells you how to draw the lines. There's a file that tells you what the projection and the data's coordinate system is in. There's files about the attributes and a lot of other things in there. So usually there's like in shapefile, I think it's about 6 files. In the file geodatabase format, there's going to be even more files. And so uh, in order to download those things efficiently, if you click on them, you are going to download a zip file. See? So I would go there. If you just click on it, it's going to open it for you, but that is not going to work in GIS. So you have to go back. You take the zip file. So I'm going to move it to where I'm working on the GIS groups folder. And fall 2023, my files, maybe I'll make a lab 1 folder, which I already have. I'm going to paste the zip file there. So it's still zipped. I can see the zipper on the icon. I'm going to right click on it. It's going to give me a warning. I'm going to extract it here where I'm working. Okay. So now it always defaults to open it. If I back up, I can see that it's there. And I click and I can see the many files that there are. So this is something that we can open in all 3 programs. Okay, that's my first data set, which is a vector file. I'm going to go back and get raster data that I can use as a base map for these programs that don't have a base map currently. But before I do that, I would recommend that you delete the zip file, because now we've already extracted it. We don't need double our data storage. So I'm going to delete and save a little data. Okay, so let's go back to here. Let's go back to rasters. So I'll back up. Rasters is not, there's many different rasters that you can get on the UGRC. Elevation and terrain is what I'm after. But if you go to get that, you're going to go to their raster app. So I'll just click on one of those. And I'll make this big for just a second. So basically, this is a little bit different. So downloading rasters on the UGRC is a little different than downloading vector files. So they take you to this graphical user interface where you specify what you want to collect. So I'm going to say I want to search for more than 10-meter data. So I went back here to select products. I made it generic. So they have air photos, LiDAR high-resolution digital elevation models, coarser DEMs from the USGS, and from an air photo-derived stereophoto product called autocorrelated DEMs. You can get contours, which aren't truly rasters, and also topo maps, which would be pictures of contours and other things. That is a raster. So in this case, I want to get some DEMs, but since I want the whole state, I'm going to go ahead and just get USGS DEMs, and I'm going to define the area of interest for the whole state. Now, so you can draw a line, make a point. If it's a point, you're only going to get a DM that intersects that point. A lot of times I use this kind of random draw tool, and I just click and draw a circle. I want the whole thing. And then I'm like, okay, I don't need too much detail because I'm going to image the whole state. And I click download. Oh, you can see I have to get all of those things. That's slightly annoying. Let's see if I can do better. Well, no, I'm not going to get the whole state. How about that? Because what I would need to do is to collect each of these and then merge them together. I think if we backed up, they probably have a statewide download already made. But let's just image the faults in Utah County and in Salt Lake. So I'll get this one. Okay. So I would click on the tile. That's the one I'm going to download. It has a name here. I'm going to right click, save as. Again, it's going to be a zip file. This time I'm going to go and store it directly in my GIS groups folder, so I don't have to move it. In lab 1 again. So now I can minimize this. I should see it there. Right click again, extract all, extract here, and then it will show up and it even opens it. Okay, now you can go in here and like drag and drop that thing. Okay. So that is a functionality for most of these programs, but you have to know which one to click on. And in this case, I knew it was the GeoTIFF. There's many files. When you do that, the program is actually seeing the other files. It knew where to put that, so it saw the world file. The other way to go, so that was for ArcPro. So I want to go to view the catalog pane. Is we want to make sure that we add a folder connection to this PC, GIS groups, and 3600 fall 2023, And in this case, I'm going to make it specific to this lab just to make things cleaner. So here now I can see um, that file that I just added, but I can also see Utah faults, and I can right click, add to current map. That's one way. You can also drag it over. So I'll right click, add to current map. So now we can see Utah faults on top of this digital elevation model. If I want them to really stand out, I could make them yellow. Boom, there are my faults. Okay. Okay, so let's see if we can get that data into these other programs. And by the way, I should be making a saved project, which I haven't done in any of these. So I should go project. Well, by default, actually, ArcGIS Pro sets up a saved project to begin with. So I can just click save. Okay, so ArcMap also has a catalog pane. You can click it open here. Like, plus my folder connections, I have none. So I need to connect to a folder. And I need to go to this PC, and you can see that you have to do it in each program. It's annoying, but you got to set it up. Otherwise, it's hard to find your files. Okay, so then I can plus that down, and I can do the same thing. So lab 1, I can add the base map, and then go back over to catalog, add the faults. Different coordinate system, it's telling me that that's the case, which can make small issues when you're zooming into really high resolution details. So keep that in mind. We'll talk about that later in class. Make that a yellow fault as well. So we have a similar map going on here. Now, whatever's on top is what shows up. So be careful of that. The order that you add them matters. If you add another file, it goes on top by default. But if you want to change that, you can just drag them up and down. Okay, so what about in QGIS? So in QGIS, there's no file geodatabases. We haven't been using them in these other programs yet either. But there is this browser over here. And so in this case, I'm going to be looking for GIS groups and going into fall 2023, Tokay files, and I can go from there, and I can, again, I can drag over the TIFF, and it appears. Now, you can also go to add layer, and if you do it that way, there's a different function to add a vector layer versus add a raster layer. What I just threw on the map is a raster layer. So the other thing I want to do is add vector layers. So I'm going to click that, and then I would look for it. And so this is kind of annoying because it didn't populate exactly where I want to be. So I have to hunt around again. So this is a good idea, like to always have these bookmarks in these different programs. Okay, so Geog 3600, my files, lab 1, and quaternary faults. And now I need to know which one to add. I want the shape file. I'll open it. And I think that should work. It says, again, that there's a geospatial reference conflict, i.e. they're not in the same projected coordinate system. But I'm going to go ahead and add it anyways. Whoops, it wanted me to choose something. I didn't do it, so let's see if it's going to let me do it now. Oh, yeah, it has already done it. I've done it. I added 4 different ones, okay? And you can do that. So why would you want to do that? Great question, but you can add the same file multiple times. There could be reasons you want to do it. Maybe you're making one layout with a different naming convention than another, something like that. If you want to remove something, you can always right click and remove that layer. Okay. Okay, so I've got a pretty similar setup. I want to turn these all into maps. So I'll start in order. Okay, so uh, upper left, uh, ArcPro, you click Insert, and what we're working on now is a map. You could always add new maps, so you can have multiple maps in a map document project that we have here. But in this case, I want to add a layout, which is like a way to make a exported map with the north arrow and things like that. And so you have to choose what your page size is, because basically you're printing your map. So I just chose a regular old 8.5 by 11 page. Then to put one of your maps, so in this case I only have one map open, but you could have multiple maps, in which case you could put 2 maps on one page if you wanted to. But whatever you want to do, you want to add in your map. Okay, so I'm going to add in the one that I have opened here. And then I have to choose how big of an area I want it to occupy on the page. And if you don't like the way it's showing up, like I don't like that it shows this part of the base map, I want to zoom in on that, then I click activate. I can scroll up or even zoom in to just Utah County if I wanted to. Okay. And then I'm done. I stop that activation. Okay. Now I would add an north arrow. I have to draw it where I want it to be on the map. I would add maybe a scale bar. Again, I have to draw it. So there's 20 miles. There's my north arrow. And if you wanted a legend, you could do that. Okay. So yes, we'll talk about customizing the legend later. I'm not going to do it right now because it take a bit too much time for this video. So I'm going to click save, saving the project, including the layout. Okay, so now I go over to this ArcMap, not ArcPro. In ArcMap, it's different. It doesn't have this separate tab the same way. Instead, you go view. Right now we're in data view. We'll change it to layout view. Okay. And so now it looks like it's on a page and we can zoom in to exactly what we want until it fills our page. And then you can insert those same things. North arrow, choose it, and it puts it on the map. And afterwards, you can change the size if you want to. Insert a scale bar. Okay. And if you want to change its properties, like what units, do you want it to be in miles or kilometers? You can do that. Same thing on the other program. And if you want to insert a legend, you can do that too. In this case, maybe I don't want the DEM to be there, just the fault. And I click next, and I could type symbols, or if you want to call it legend, that's all fine. So here they kind of ask you a bit more. Because it's like this yellow, I'm gonna give it a frame and a background color of white and a border Okay, and now I can populate it kind of within the map. Oh, maybe I don't want the background to be white. Let's make the background kind of a dark gray. Okay. So that works a little better for this case. You can choose where to put these depending on what you want. That's definitely not where I want to put it. So color matters. Okay, so hopefully that gives you a start on creating a layout for each of these. And then in the case of QGIS, it's slightly similar to ArcPro and quite different from ArcMap. So in this case, we would go to Project and we would make a new print layout, and it's going to open a new window. And I'm going to call it Utah Valley or Wasatch Front Faults, WFF. Okay, so now it's made a little window for me here. There's nothing there, but if I click this button here, which says Add Map, put it right there, and it's there. Why is it so small? Okay, zoom in. There it is. Now I can, I believe, zoom in on it. Let's see. That's not what I want to do. So there's an issue here where I want to zoom in on the data as opposed to zoom to what I'm looking at in the page. Let's see if it does anything different if I zoom in here. No, let me delete this for a second. I'm going to add the map again. Yeah, now it did zoom in a bit more based upon what I had here, but there should be a way to activate this as well. Um, and so let's see, Atlas settings view. Move content, select and move item. It's a good question. I will post another video about this later. Maybe some of you have figured it out. We'll help each other out on this. But we can add things. So add items. You can add a scale bar just like on the other ones. You can add a north arrow. And there's choices here. These are pretty generic, but you can make other choices if you want. Okay, and we can add a legend or, yep. And of course, I got multiple faults there. Okay, so let me bring this back down here. So we've got our three maps. None of them are perfect. I would say that ArcMap is, or ArcPro is maybe the best looking one of these at the moment. But there's much more we can do to edit and make these look better. Just let me show you how to export them now. So you would go to Share in the menu here, Export Layout, and you have choices to different file formats, like a picture, a JPEG, or a TIFF, or a PDF. In the case of this lab, just a flattened, simple PDF is probably a good choice. And then you just have to tell it where you're saving it. I would save it to your file folder. It's a lot of clicking in these labs. Lab 1, and this is my layout. Toke 1B ArcPro. Maybe I'd want to have Toke be first, and then say ArcPro layout. That's probably a better way to go. You don't have to give it a file extension, it knows. And then you have to click export. The export is now complete. So if I go in there, we should see it here. I can open it up as a PDF. And it looks like this. Okay. And so whatever you see on the screen is not necessarily the quality that you get. You can zoom in on some of these. You can adjust the resolution of these outputs. So you can make pretty high quality maps. Okay. Now in this case over here in ArcMap, you go into File and export the map. And you can export the map view or the layout view like we're doing here, or you can export the data view actually. It's whatever's on the screen. So in this case, I'll do the same. I'll do a PDF. Here's where you can adjust the resolution of that PDF. And now I need to put it in the right place. GIS groups, 3600 fall 2023. So I'll click that and I'll change it from ArcPro to ArcMap layout. Save. Now that one showed up. You can pull that up. There's the Pro, there's the map. They're different, but they accomplished a similar thing. And then here we can export as well. So I believe we just go export as a PDF, and then we put it where we want it to go. Oh, that's not it. And here, I'll change it to say QGIS layout. And there were some choices there, which I didn't really make. And I can open that one too. So you can see on one, I have a landscape layout. I didn't choose a very good north arrow. I didn't clean things up very well. But we are able to get to some exported file in all cases. Yeah, so big learning objectives here was, okay, UGRC is a great place to download data. All GIS data that you're going to download, nearly all, is going to be in a zip file format. So you're going to need to extract those zip files and put them in a folder that's accessible to your GIS software program. Usually you're going to want to go through Arc's catalog to access that data because there you see it as a single file. It's much less of an issue. And if you want to copy and move that file somewhere, it's actually going to copy and move all of the files associated with that data and move it. If you move things within the Windows file folders, you're going to have a real risk of corrupting your data and making it not usable. So moving things in the catalog view is great. In the case of QGIS, they have a browser window here that you can get at data. If we look within the quaternary faults, you can see that it also behaves like a catalog in that it sees that as kind of makes you look at it as like just a shape file and an XML file. We can drill down in though to see other things about that file. And so it's kind of collapsing it all in all cases. And so it's a great way to go through the file network of whatever program you're using to add that data. You can go over here, and if you know what to add, you can drag it over and add another one that way. But you need to click on the shape, and you need to know to do that. And so You might not always know which file, depending on the format, that you need to drag over. So better to go through the navigations. Okay, then once you've got them in here, each program has its own special way of creating print layouts that you can produce publication quality documents. None of mine here are publication quality, but I just wanted to have you see how to access that in each of these three programs. Okay, so that's it for this video. Hope this is helpful. Um, have a good rest of your week.